Yeah. Oh. One of those.
No, yeah, it's like that.
Well, it looks like it's 50%.
Yeah, let's kick it off.
Whenever you're ready, we can kick it off.
We ready, folks? We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's the regularly scheduled urban design peer review panel meeting of October 23rd, 2024. My name is Norman Alston. I will be serving as the chair today, as our regular chair, Eureka, is unavailable. I guess the first thing we'll do in this instance is we're gonna start with introduction because we have a new member of the panel this morning. So we'll just let Sarah Fitzgerald say hi to us and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Appreciate it. I'm Sarah Fitzgerald. I'm a landscape architect with the city of Bedford. In addition to being a landscape architect, I'm also the sustainability lead. So I'm focusing on how we can adapt our practices to better define success and design everything side firm. I'm also a cyclist, so I'm pretty home mistakes to prove it. So it's certainly one of my niche academic interests to make this be more valuable. And I'm very excited to be part of this panel. Thank you.
Well, welcome. Great to have you. Since we can't let her by herself, so we'll just put down the road the rest of the panel here. Hey.
I'm Kata Oki. I am the outgoing head of exhibition design at the Dallas Museum of Art and an architect and designer. So it's nice to meet you all.
James Rott, landscape architect with HGTV Corporation. I guess I started in the work back during COVID, so it's been kind of an interesting ride for me.
Yeah, I'm Faisal Sayed, civil engineer with Urban Engineers Group, and I look at things from civil traffic.
Great. Thank you all very much. Well, we have a quorum this morning. The first order of business will be we will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Motion by Jim. Second by Kate. Any discussion? Corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, minutes are adopted. And we have one project before us this morning, and so at this point, I'll turn it over to Arturo, I guess, to.
Right. Yeah. So,
Oh,
everyone for
sorry.
No, you're good. I'll give a brief overview of your project and then hand it over to the applicants to go into further detail. Pegasus Park is the first purpose-built life science and innovation campus in North Texas. Phase 1 was approved by this panel in December 2022, which included conversion of buildings 2 and 3 into lab-ready multi-tenant spaces. This project, Phase 2, consists of two new buildings, Building D and Parking Garage 3. Building D is a new 5-story life science research building, and the parking garage will accommodate approximately 1,500 stalls. The building and landscape design are intended to establish Pegasus Park as a cohesive modern life science campus by maximizing open space, creating a comfortable community and work areas, and minimizing sustainable resource consumption. Related to the urban design priorities that the panel should consider for this project, consider how design of Building D and Parking Garage 3 and adjacent courtyard space can strategically accommodate and advance larger campus improvements in future phases, and activate, frame, and provide interest to the surrounding campus quad. Consider how this proposal in future phases prioritize pedestrian circulation, provide multiple transit options, sustainable design practices, and create visual gateways to the campus.
And who do we have with us this morning?
So I'm Grant Tsuda, representing the applicant with Montgomery Street Partners. And I'm part of our ownership group. We have J Small Investments and Light Hill Philanthropies. It's the
same applicant as the last project that we came through. That is Bridge Labs that we reviewed with you all 2 years ago. Wrapping up construction in the next couple of weeks there, so that's really exciting to really put that one out. We're really excited about this next phase to take it to the next step. This offers an opportunity for Dallas to plant a flag as a life science opportunity as companies are looking from both the east and west coast. And this building is different from what we've done before. A lot of the other projects on campus were converting the old ExxonMobil space, the office tower, the call center, which was Bridge Labs, but this really gives us an opportunity to build a ground up purpose-built R&D space for Dallas that can host companies. One of those companies that we're really excited about, we have an anchor tenant that's interested in the space. We're relocating to San Francisco to build a next-gen blood diagnostics testing site. It'll be about 100,000 plus square feet that would anchor this building, and we're really excited about the opportunity to move along with them and take this to the next step. So with that, I will turn it over to Vlad. We have James and Joseph here representing the architecture team, and they'll walk you through the design in more detail.
Yeah, we're relatively new to the team. There's been a little bit of change, but OJB has been just at the landscape designer. I'm Joseph Warrenville. I'm a principal in Flat Architects out of San Francisco and San Diego. We have 10 offices nationwide. We only do science. That's 100% of what we focus on. So we're kind of tremendously excited about the site. We're going to be able to put that up. Yeah. Where? Okay. So just a quick orientation of the site. There's about 6 acres, I'd say, in our project today, and 24 overall in the overall design. You see in the black outline. Red outline is obviously what we're doing today. And there's a little bit of there's this dotted outline, which is we want to improve this plot from a landscape perspective and interfacing these different Pegasus town. Our goals is really to create, it's really all about placement. It's about creating more there. The areas in transition to well aware, sort of more of a logistics and industrial sort of use. So I think from a city planning perspective, this is a pretty important project about establishing some kind of identity along Purdy Boulevard. So our concerns, we've listened to comments from those issued by this board previously, tried to address them through a redesign or new design of this project. So we can get into that in just a second, but Purdy Boulevard, Lackawanna Street, and Pegasus Park Drive here, which will eventually come down and complete to Burbank. That's the basic premise. We have basically a stated 5-story building oriented towards life science. It's core shell. But depending on how the market goes, maybe we'll see some movement in terms of the interiors. And then the parking structure as well. I'm going to kind of turn it over to James to begin describing the site a little bit more in detail. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm James Krause, project designer and project architect at Flat Architects. We're really excited to present this design idea. I'm going to point out a few things on the site plan. Just for your benefit, overall, as just pointed out, what we're going to do here is connect Pegasus Park Drive through Irving. So that becomes kind of a more of a primary sort of a secondary street to Irving. And then we have a service drive which connects around the back of the parking structure.
While you're doing it.
So the primary entry, there's 2 entries. Primary and secondary entrance. Primary entrance is off the quads, being integrated from the existing Bridge Labs project. And the secondary entrance is off of the new Pegasus Park. So the idea here is to create infrastructure for linkages to future parks, road networks, bicycle networks, by having multiple opportunities to cross Pegasus Park Drive. The second component of this is the service and loading component. So with life science buildings, there's a heavier service and access component. So we have 2 points of loading and access. one on the south side here with a truck dock and a service zone. And then at the north, a smaller secondary truck dock, which shares access into the next Pegasus. The next component is the parking structure. So what we've done here is we've stepped down the massing of the parking structure from previously proposed to kind of deal with the street edge a little bit more. And we have 3 entrances off of the new Pegasus Park Drive, and then 1 exit to a shared service drive adjacent to the biolabs here. So 3 entrances and exits and 1 exit on this side of the project. And I think again, the idea of we've designed some zones here, landscape zones in the project, trying to address some of the conditions around the site, create more of a street edge buffer as you're approaching the project. And the idea is to create a landscape infrastructure. So in the future, we have transit links here, we have more of a buffer around the project, opportunities for bioswales, and we've kind of designed these 3 components: a street edge component, a promenade or sort of a linkage which connects the parking structure through to the future park, and then the quad which kind of connects these two, the current project.
I know this is all public space, acceptable, and our intention is that it's one spread down and kind of sort of set for our organizing people for the rest of the development as it moves along in future phases.
And I'm going to hand it over to Jim. Let's move it up. Landscape.
I'm Chip Travis from ODA Landscape Architecture and parking. We obviously have been working on this project over the past couple of years, and this is obviously a very exciting situation. And as everyone's mentioned, creating a place is what's so exciting. What's nice about the way this building is starting to situate, it's starting to obviously form a room for the main quadrangle that's there today. And then really promoting strong kind of welcome entries into the core of the project, coming off the Pegasus Park, off of the park, where you can easily flow into the space. And then likewise, coming all the way through this Paseo and out. The other nice opportunity that's starting to afford itself is we get a great forecourt on the building, adjacent to the Pegasus Park Drive. We've got a zone that's ranging from 40 to 50 feet. That's giving us an opportunity to start activating that space and creating really active frontage along the building. So we really see this opportunity, all the edges all around this building could be programmed and be a place to be. So the idea of great streetscape, the idea of Pegasus Park Drive coming all the way into the Irving, great entry court, the opportunity for seating groves, again, that could be programmed with different activities. The opportunity for a corner of the building, again, being an active moment, terrace that could activate into the program that really creates the park. So this becomes a node that really attracts people. And again, the opportunity to have a wonderful promenade that we can activate with different activities, food trucks, and again, really providing opportunities to engage in this. So as you look at this quad space, some of the program elements that we've talked about, I mentioned the idea of food trucks that could actually pull down into the Paseo off of Pegasus Park Drive. The idea of technology pods where we can get people from outside, from inside outside, where you can have a great meeting in the garden. We've done this on several projects, and it's a really successful thing. These are structures that have technology, power, fans, TVs, and then so you can basically have a meeting like this in the garden and have that health and wellness factor. And then just diving into the streetscape, I mentioned, we've got this really kind of wonderful zone, this 50 to 40 foot zone that's happening. Section A, which is up at the top here, is this top section. So the opportunity to create a series of gardens that find yourself in destinations, creating places with movable tables and chairs where you can start to activate 8-foot generous sidewalk that's starting to be informed on the streetscape with trees that are marching along at a regular rhythm in that 20 to 30-foot range along the street edge. We've got a pretty wide existing street section. That's where the road exists today. So we've got basically a 52-foot existing street. Parking that can happen on either side within that zone. And then again, I think the nice thing about this big area that we have, it also gives us the opportunities to handle stormwater, to treat water, slow it down before we put it back in the system and celebrate it, which we're very excited about. As you move further down, this is another view that shows that section B that you see there that's illustrated on the plan. Again, wide section, generous sidewalks, and then as we get down next to the garage where we're extending Pegasus Park Drive down, we're actually starting to, since this is a new drive being built, starting to hold the parking areas, it's all about trees out into the street, so we start to scale that 50-foot expanse of the streetscape that exists in the existing street, and then it's generous kind of 8-foot buffer zone where we can start to complement the garage and soften it.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt?
Sure.
It's north up.
North is up.
Okay.
Yeah, north is up. So that in a nutshell kind of gives you an idea of what's happening along that street edge. So. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Presentation at this point?
Just a little bit.
Okay,
Okay, so I think we just want to end with this idea that we're trying to create a safe place through the landscape, through the architecture, through interacting with the city, but primarily to work with the existing quad, look for opportunities for art, look for opportunities for bicycles to be outside the campus, but then perhaps inside the garage. I think we're also hoping in the future to be able to connect with this future park network, go all the way to Katy Trail, but even in the short term, connect directly to the park and create kind of an infrastructure for connections. But I think with the architecture, what we also heard is we're trying to step down the massing of the project. So we came up with a scheme which has two volumes which start to step down towards the street and create a more interesting architecture through a sort of a blending of more heavy opaque materials, what we call integrated performance. So we're kind of bringing the thinking of stitching it into the project rather than sort of applying it. And then I think also for the parking, we're doing a stepped garage, so it's a lower portion here, but again, looking for opportunities for facades, for art integration, perhaps sign themes, perhaps not, and maybe even amenities within inside the building, bicycle repair shops or smaller cafe elements, which again can liven up the street. So it's not an older school garage, but more of a next generation. And then as you can see here, moving towards the campus, kind of a step and action approach, massing approach, which I would argue in blends architecture and landscape together to become. So I think with that concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much. The way we do this here is first, panel will go down the line and ask questions. I'm sure we have a few questions today about some of the aspects of this. And once all the questions are collected and answered, then we'll go back to and give everybody a chance to provide their comments. So saying that, we can start on the far end with Faisal. Would you have some questions for these folks?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a few things to better understand. And I actually have a question on this exactly, but these streets, Pegasus, extension, this is gonna be public street?
I think it's just Park Drive to, if you look at this exhibit right here, up to this point where there's a bulb out turnaround,
Yeah.
it's public right of way. Past that, it's not, and we're not right now proposing to dedicate public right of way to that. So it must be a private street, but it has full open access as if it was a public street. Field will have a public street, but not be dedicated to something else.
Okay, so it's okay. Then these, in that the yellow and red, I guess, That is just so that people park and then they can go north or south or on that. I was trying to figure out what is the kind of dimension between the existing building E and the proposed building E, like what is the space, looks, is it like 40 feet?
Yeah, it's about 38.
38 feet, that's okay, it's not like that extra wide.
No,
And no particular access.
Yes. Which is good. And then one thing that I was gonna ask is like this, the other place that was kind of very big to me was the between Biolab E and the garage, see that, all that gray?
yes,
Is that existing or is that proposed, or
it's an existing service yard
is it existing?
for this project, the bridge line.
Yeah, and biolab, so back there right now, it's like they have their chillers, air handling units, genset. Yeah, and then for Bridge Labs, there's also dumpster generators here, yeah, they're all this.
Okay, that's all the questions. Oh, sorry, so, the other thing I was asking, just on that view, and I was thinking that that's why, what is this, kind of like a ridge form, it looks like a, old piece, and it's, yeah, that's, where is that in the plan piece? Because I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So, we actually worked on a study in partnership with the Parks Department and OJB, put together a concept design for, that portion is actually city-owned Pegasus Park. So it's across on the other side of Pegasus Park Drive. So we had been in discussion with the Parks Department about how, you know, potentially that could go in bond funding and put together some ideas and concepts of like, you know, right now, this is not a destination park, and there's a lot of opportunity for that to be something more in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. James?
Yeah, I have kind of a history nut. You know, this site has always been interesting to me. It's one of the few places that actually fronts on the old river meander. Yeah, that's where you zoomed out and just see the river. Yeah, the river beyond the port. Yeah, so it's so interesting. Yeah, now really just more, but really magnitude that shipment together. All that. So it's, yeah, with fluids and leverage, so many people don't realize that, right? And in some way they kind of maybe even talk about that. Now, have that be part of that, of the side of the Pegasus Drive, so the string trails line. I guess the other, just to help me, this is a commuter campus, so it's no residential plan. There's no on-campus living or anything like that.
There's not, in the master plan, we did contemplate one of the buildings that's kind of on the corner near Community Brewing. So in our master plan, we have a building here, and this offers an opportunity that could be potentially residential, it could be creative office. It was much higher massing than the rest of the master plan, where we're trying to keep it below 5 stories.
I recall we had a just brief conversation, I think in the last, around this connect under the freeway over to the commuter rail. It's on the other side of the freeway, and that was kind of the next question. And considering it's commuter, since it's car only, a bike, but have you had any conversation with Art or about future stops?
Yeah, we did talk to him, so there's a stop. Right now it exists, I believe, right here.
Yeah.
And we did talk to him, when we were going through the master plan, and talked to him about connectivity and like what was it like to expand on it, you know, more significant stop. And basically from their perspective, it came down to like how many riders they have, when the demand reaches the threshold, they would be open to it. So I think, you know, as we start to think about this campus growing and that is gonna naturally have more riders, how do we integrate that more so it's more of a connection to like, because what we showed here was there was also some connectivity coming in here, how do we like work with the streetscape when we start building those buildings to tie it in and
Yeah,
make it more substantial stop.
yeah, that, old technology pod, had to be kind of like that. I know it's unquestioned, it's more common, but I'll think more about that, but those are really all my questions.
Great, thank you. Okay,
Just a couple of questions, so it's mainly about the north side of the site where that northern loading dock in building B. So that's a dock, and then directly across from it in building E is also a dock, okay. And so then this is a service drive, like just a service vehicle slash pedestrian?
Yes, pedestrian, we'll run sail through that, so there's a change in bathing and that sort of thing. But it's the location connects to the park, so yeah, there's a little bit of cross pollination there, but that is an existing condition with the tower.
Okay, so this already exists?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think you just answered my other question, which was whether this large triangular parking lot is phased to be built onto in the future?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then, sorry, one more question. Is there a floor to floor height of the parking structure?
yeah, there is 10.2 inches.
So,
11 foot 6 or 7 for steel. So it's a little bit higher on level 1. But you mean the overall height or?
yeah, well, just generally, that would, is it able to be converted in the future into usable space if need be? Can it convert from a garage to?
Great question, always something we look at. With cast in place concrete garages for sure. And it's always a balance of understanding how much infrastructure you build now that would allow for future flexibility. But typically with these kind of garages, there's a certain level of reuse up to kind of a point. It can't be, say, for example, sometimes a laboratory because of the vibration, but sort of within reason, it's always something we look at. But at the moment, it's designed to be a parking garage, but robust enough to.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, far away.
Right, then I just wanted to ask you, why would you create Pegasus Drive and not dedicate it to the city? What's the city maintain it private?
Mostly because the city of Dallas doesn't have a lot of maintenance funds, they don't have a lot of ability to actually maintain things to the level that you want for a Class A life sciences park like this. So not dedicating it gives you a lot more space to do what you want from a private perspective. You don't have to get license agreements for the things you want to bring into the space. Gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot more maintenance.
Like putting utilities in the roadways to keep the streets?
Absolutely. It's one of the things that we're talking about right now, right? Currently, there's a very large utility room on the side. There's overhead, it's overhead electric, and there's some gas and there's some water and things like that are old and outdated, that are on the edge, that we would like to, probably need to upgrade, move into the center, and then be allowed to have some street trees. We got an exchange on both sides. It's certainly something we're doing.
Great. I also wanted to ask, I've heard quite a few references to like clearly trying to leverage the adjacent park. I'm wondering if you could talk me through that. Like, I don't quite see the plan, how that's very strong.
Yeah. Well, I think the challenge we're facing is that there is no existing park yet. But one of the things that we're trying to do, and it was I think part of the initial master plan, is kind of, we call this the spine or the paseo, is to create a visual linkage to the park so that this is an open campus in the future. And then building a kind of a sidewalk, a pedestrian, and some tree network within the service yard. So it's not just a asphalt service yard, and have opportunities to cross in multiple locations at the north. So again, building in that infrastructure for future growth or connection. At least at this stage, it's a kind of a concept level.
The detail level, I haven't studied it intensely yet, but whatever the paving is here, we'll probably continue across the street in here as well. Maybe there might be a table, maybe a raised table or something like that to address the pedestrian. And considering with the master plan, or redevelopment part, We always saw this connection going all the way through, becoming a connection, like an overlook gateway into that part. Likewise here, and then also, level one, where you had these strong kind of local minutes.
Great. And then my last question is about the bike routes. I saw the helpful diagram about bike parking, and I'm wondering, I know that the Trinity Strand Trail has a temporary extension. Have you thought about those routes that might come through this new street, for example, or what, how does it tie into the larger bike network?
The biking part, again, both Lackawanna and Hidden Park. So I would say making a connection to these zones, would be really important. I think the speed of Lackawanna in particular would be very low, and we're kind of envisioning that as a more lower scale, tree lined boulevard, if you will, or to make more of a pedestrian connection across the street, like community brewing, et cetera. So it's a natural place for the bike route.
I think that's where my mind was going to go, exactly that, but it seems like creating this new through street is gonna increase speed, so it's like, where does this connection really happen? Okay. All right, I think that was the question.
Thank you.
Only got a couple. First one is, what is happening on Cross Pegasus Drive extension? Those other buildings, there used to be an overhead walkway that's been disconnected. Clearly you don't own it. What is that? Is that an occupied building or?
Yes, that is ExxonMobil's data center.
Okay,
They used to own all of the park.
okay,
They still maintain that, and so that extension is actually still partially on our property. That all get cleared out, and it was just like a walkway to go from data center to office for them to in.
okay, so we don't envision any functional connection between the two sides anytime soon.
Yeah, not in the near term.
Okay, you don't have a contract.
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it has come up.
Yeah, well, it's screaming at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know affiliates that own the property on the other side, which is it's a truck terminal, but it's really the corner piece as the Trinity wraps.
Okay.
So, aspirationally at some point in time, that'd be great if all of this were part of the park.
Okay, well, that's helpful, and then it sets up for my other question, the bigger one, and maybe you told us 2 years ago, but I certainly don't remember. What is the motivation to extend that street all the way through? And have you done traffic studies? Can you tell us kind of what kind of traffic load you're expecting there and what actual purpose that is serving?
So as of right now, the only way you can access that parking garage is if you come all the way around 35, come to Irving and then take a left into it.
Okay.
So if we connect this through, we're gonna be able to provide a really quick loading zone from 35 traffic down through Pegasus Park Drive and into the garage. They don't have to always go.
Okay,
So it gives 2 points of access to the garage versus just the Irving access point without cars having to traverse through the middle of the site, which we don't want to do because we want the site to be very accessible for pedestrians and to not have all these cars coming to load.
well, okay, but what I have is a question, it's not a comment, so I'll pass until later on it. So again, you done traffic studies, are you expecting hundreds of cars to come down the road and go to that part of the road right there?
So we have done traffic and parking studies for this particular location. Irving has very, very low volumes. It's a 3-lane both directions road. There's no concern at all about the traffic on it. So that's the main reason for having at least one entrance off of that and then also connecting it right there at the top. So Irving is a big entrance point for us since there's not a traffic concern there at all.
Okay.
And then as far as parking is concerned, having the parking sort of located on the edge of the site like that, instead of having it in the middle, it really allows for ease of access to it. It slows the cars down, like we were talking about earlier. They don't go through the middle of the site where we're trying to activate the pedestrian networks. And it brings the pedestrian and the vehicle a little bit away from each other. So that's another good, and another.
Okay, then I guess the last actual question I have is the gap between. It's not this big size. My building is, building D, the bio lab, and the parking structure. I understand that's a service area, I think like a 3 large area, is there an opportunity there for that parking garage to scoot off of that corner? And cuddle up to that, bio lab there a little bit more?
So it's potentially, it's not as big as it looks from a service yard perspective. So there's two different service yard loading. There's one here for the Bridge Labs, and there's also the one here for Biolabs. And then the third thing that has to happen here is fire lane for fire coverage back here for these two buildings.
Right.
Is supposed to not be infringed upon by where the trucks are parked. We're not making all three of those things happen. We've worked with Ricky Butler on that, but this is a really tight area for two buildings to have a loading yard and then also the fire access to the roof. That's,
It's a little deceptive too, we didn't draw in the equipment here, which would have shown you a little bit more how constricted it is.
there's dumpsters and, some generators and things like that here. There's another generator that's going in right there. There's a lot of equipment back there as well.
So I'm treading delicate times, so the questions on the side, and we'll get to the, are there any more questions of the panel today?
Yeah, this is a platted lot,
Yes.
but as part of this work, there is no amendment needed to the minor or the easements or anything. Is there?
There is currently a preliminary plat that we're working toward the final plat with to move an old plot line that was in the middle. That's in the process. We're considering on that right now. And then, once that's done, then there's no more platting that will be required. There are some easements that will need to be abandoned and adjusted specifically for this, Pegasus Park Drive extension through there so that we can get utilities and everything in the road and have the streetscape on the sides. But those are all gonna be done for EWU and things like that. It's water, sewer, there's a gas easement that was, it's not for you.
Okay, Fido, why don't you go ahead on into your comments if you have them, please?
Okay, yeah, so it's actually on my mind, it's very well thought out and was in general. The beginning is that a big job of the like, but very narrow space between the buildings, so it will definitely enhance pedestrian connections. These are kind of questions / comments, so you can, I have concern about the city area as well between the parking structure and the biolab. I understand there's equipment there, filing needs has to be maintained. I was thinking of it from, your employee or customer perspective. Now, the thing is most of the people who park will be users of the facility. There is not a lot of visitors coming down, yes. But that end of the parking where there are two exits, I was trying to figure out to minimize the traffic that goes in on that secondary driveway, only to find out that they actually get into the garage and they're circulating around their end. So is there a possibility to make this one, if I understand the fire truck and all that, you can check that out, but if it is possible to make that one just arriving right out, so that you are forcing everybody to use the parking structure user to actually just use the Pegasus extension. Now, if you need that driveway just the way it is for service reasons, then that's okay, but that's all over my mind. I don't, people, they may just skip that and can say, I'm gonna go in and then find out on the rotation ball. Second comment on the Pegasus extension, it probably needs a little bit of an adjustment, which will be easy to do. Because I see a lot of federal parking, but the way it's drawn right now, that's why I asked the question about the flat. You cannot have your curb return radius go past the lot line. Right, so wherever your curb return radius ends, that must be within your own lot line. So right now you can see that it is going past it, but I think a very easy way to adjust that would be to eliminate maybe the first 3 federal parking spaces, and then that whole road, the road gets narrowed and can at least put in 8 feet in, but you probably need to push in another maybe 15 feet. because that is probably a 20-foot radius, I'm guessing. So it needs to come in slightly more. And the question I also have is that why is that parallel parking there? Is it because we need it for road reasons? Why put parallel parking?
It's essentially street parking.
Yeah.
Existing street, we were just proposing an idea for having like all balanced street trees that were sort of functional width of the street, so we providing some street trees, just kind of narrows that. You're still providing some street shading section.
Well, this is what I was gonna say. If you don't need it, I mean, if you need every space, you wanna fight for it, that's fine, but if you don't need it, just eliminate all of that and make it a green space. Especially the first portion, which is the first maybe 150 feet of premises, because you have a parking garage right there. Yeah. People don't really need to park there, right? So that, now, next to building D, I can see somebody wants to park and run out, okay? You do need some, but I just see a whole bunch of extra parking spaces that could be eliminated. And another comment that I have is, I'm sure you have already confirmed, but that loading dock that is on the north side of building D, I see that as a tight space, so what kind of trucks are you envisioning using that, if that is, semis? I'm assuming you have done the homework to confirm that it can get in and out of it, using some kind of a overturn or not, but it don't get a little tight.
Oh, yes, I was gonna say, we designed for the WV65s, this one is getting on, it's loading dock. I think the second one was a shoes, because yeah, it was really a secondary. We did look at auto turn, truck turning up here, which was a WV50, maximum, but it does, that's why we have some partial paving, so we become partially.
Yeah, I don't really see the need for it because they have a type of very specialty use, I just wanted to make sure that, that is it. And now, something that Norm you mentioned which kind of piqued my interest. If you are extending Pegasus Park Drive because you want to minimize the neighborhood traffic coming in, then I guess you said Irving Boulevard doesn't have much traffic, right? You already know that. So I'm trying to justify why can't we just, and then parking structure is right there, all of Irving Boulevard is that, right? So if that is the case, why allow people to come right through the site with the extension? I totally get it, needed because it's like, but that is like, if like to me, it's like I'm looking to say, well, we want to keep traffic out of the site, but at the same time, we're extending the road to the site, so people can come all the way to the garage. If you want that to do, then don't allow that connection, so everybody will come all the way off of the boulevard. Now, it is inconvenient, I get it, but that is a choice you can make down the road. But I love the shape of the building, especially the architecture of the building D as well as the garage. I find it is very cool. But just the way, now, is there like a concept coming up in all the, like on the corner tower with the state of art, and I see paintwork of the artist. So people
Yes, we've done this, some other projects, and other places we work, and it's really effective.
It's very effective.
Yeah.
So you can see it and you know that, hey, that's where my state of art. Very, very cool.
Sometimes you can have them be open stairs, so you don't have
Yeah.
mechanical cooling, seasons, it's really nice.
It looks cool. Oh, yes, one thing I want to do is consider eliminating the parallel parking space. I also just heard on AER just this week that this group that is trying to push for minimum parking is making some effort. I don't know when that will be. But hopefully it will be the case, and I'd rather see more trees instead of more parking spaces. Especially if it's parking, there's concrete right next to it, just on the other side, so that's.
Yeah, I will say, roadway, one benefit of that road coming through is just the activation of future green space on the north side, allowing traffic to come through, see the activity, would go a long way in just creating eyes on the park.
Yeah, my problem on that one, as you develop that hard corner with the more turns. I think it would be worth to really show that we've done to only the 2 lanes, right lane makes a turn, Because you're saying in future there may be connection coming from the trail, so that really, there is no reason to have the parallel parking in a town, because people can park there anyway, right? You're traveling, nobody can maneuver into it.
Yeah.
So I would also consider eliminating maybe 4 spaces right where the developments.
Yeah.
Get rid of it, really drop it down, really slow people down, and you have a lot more green space right at that corner where you're making it. Okay, well,
Thank you. All right. James?
Yeah, I think it's great. I've always thought this was a really unique site, like I said earlier, with the river meander, the park. I'll begin with my kind of considerations overall. Consideration before, I'll start there since I'm talking about the park, just a much more, I would like to see a much more significant connection to that green space that I feel like is so unique. And I'm sure you have a sketch or a drawing, and Chip, you mentioned it in the master plan, that would say it connects around, but I think that's, I mean, it's in the name. I think really drawing that into the site is super, it's a great opportunity to do that. The green space you're creating and the quad, all of that, the formality of that is really cool, but I also think that informality of the river meander is such a unique place. And in most places, it's a back door. If you go along, you'll see it, if you can go and explore this whole region of the city, it's meander's more of a back door, as opposed to being right there in the front door. And it's a buffer between the freeway. I'll kind of piggyback on the next comment. I think how it's getting at, it's almost, I love it's an option where you guys might consider Pegasus Park Drive as more of a casino, where you're walkable, maybe it's even permeable, very pedestrian first. I am concerned that as Dallas grows, as population grows, that is going to be a cut. If you don't have it as some kind of a controlled, just not a city like any city, that people are going to drive through there, maybe fast. So maybe, control it, disconnect it, whether it's part of the day, all the time. It just would be kind of interesting to see that more. It's green, almost like a pedestrian first, vehicular second. Just an idea. I think there's an opportunity, something I mentioned earlier, interesting around DART. I think your technology pod is great. In the past, I've had conversations with DART staff about making those bus stops more, in terms of perspective, dignity of people. You're going to have a really diverse group of people using this. You're going to have an engineer, scientists, whatever they are, and you're going to have the people that come to sort of build. Do those things. So I think having those, looks like you got 2 stops area right. So, thinking about how they might be unique, how you might bring that idea to transit committee and discuss that with DART, another idea. Consider. Mentioned the controlled access. Pegasus Drive, I just given that some more thought. I'm sure others will have comments. And then I guess my other one is parking structure can breathe. We always we always kind of stretch into that street edge, and Irving is evolving. It's not always going to feel industrial. I wish that you had some program in that first, second floor parking structure that was more engaging. So it's not just parking structure fronting on Irving. Is there any way to have that ground level at least be something other than just parking? Maybe you're thinking about that, but I think that would be really, it would help your overall campus. I think it would help the front door experience, make it really unique. I'll stop there. Just a thought. Just let me see that. Yeah, something else. Maybe it's not part of your, maybe it's not a part of the research, but it's a place that when it's hot like today's gonna be the hottest day. So cycling, it's not out on cyclists too. I'm going to go out on a bike again today. It's really super hot. It'd be great to have a shaded place there to be able to maybe grab a cup of coffee or something that.
Yeah.
Actually. Structured. Yeah. Okay, your turn.
Okay,
Thank you all.
so Faisal and JD have already said a lot of the same thoughts that I have had about it. I too am super excited about the whole site and the whole project. It's unique and it's something that I think the city would really respond to. A couple of my comments have to do with that, you keep talking about the future and what this will evolve as and into. And I agree that I would have loved to see more illustrations of how you're connecting to the river across the street. As this does grow, this area starts to grow and become more community focused, I think that that's gonna be critical. And so just what that starts to look like, is there plans for any of the campus to be programmed for the public at all? Like, would there be any activities, lectures, anything like that, that the public would eventually
Yeah, I
be
mean,
attending?
so today in the tower, that's the conferencing center, that there's a lot of events that come through there. ARPA-H is located, that's the regional head in the tower, so there's a lot of events that come through there that, it's not necessarily public space, but I think, you know, that brings a lot of the community in, and we even talked about, you know, how can we incorporate some programming, whether that means events in the quad, and just like how can we tie that in? There won't be necessarily dedicated public space, but
Right.
just like figuring out how can we tie one's the art, and then two is like community events that you know, connected to the Pegasus Park and not just be a business park, right?
Right, exactly, okay, so then I think that knowing that, which is exciting, I think that it should be, that I think that then that connection to the creek across the street becomes even more important, and I think then that starts to get to the question about that edge of the parking structure at the south being even more important yet. Have some kind of something, commercial access, or setting it up for future tenant space, even if it's parking in the meantime. Just getting it ready so that when the public does start to access those parts of the campus, it feels more inviting, because at the moment, it's very inward facing, which so many campuses are.
Yeah.
But you have your major service drives coming in and clashing with the pedestrian access, which I get, it is kind of tight, but if you can separate those even a little bit, then I think that would help make that edge a little bit more accessible and friendly, so that it doesn't feel kind of like just walking into an office park. And then also about the Pegasus Park Drive and the extension, really just jumping on this, and you may hear it from all of us at this point. I saw Norm say, why do we even need that to be vehicular at all? So can it turn into what is called a Wooner? I don't know if you all are familiar with the concept, but it is a pedestrian first vehicle, if absolutely necessary, type of situation. So lots of traffic calming devices, different paving, again, programming along it. I don't know if there are benches or something, so that you're really discouraging the vehicular access to that throughway. Because I think, yes, we love nothing more in Texas than a quick cut through, and traffic is just awful. So I think bearing that in mind. And then my last comment is about the Paseo, which I love, because I think that it's really nice to have this sort of T intersection of pedestrian use. But again, just sort of opening it up, making it a little bit more friendly so that it feels less, it feels kind of like you want it, but you don't really know how to treat it. So I don't know how it becomes more generous and more connected to that quad, but it feels like it's missing that something. And it's nice, especially with your lobby connecting to it. So it seems like you're missing an opportunity there that could require a little bit more study and thought, but it definitely can get there. So I think it's a great project, and it is really exciting. So just keeping the visitors and the public in mind moving forward is something that I would really emphasize.
Thanks, Dave. Sarah, you back.
Yeah, I think the panel is very aligned today, so a lot of this is gonna be echoes. I also want to emphasize that clear better connections to Pegasus Park would be great, and I think that comes in tandem with reading Pegasus Park Drive a little differently. Is there the opportunity to decrease that roadway? Could we actually pull up the sections, the street sections, the. Okay, yeah. So like 41-foot streets, how many lanes would that be?
Well, so that's the existing street section that's there today. So that's part of the issue. We it'd be great to squeeze that everybody's way. So
So you're proposing a 34-foot street, that's gonna be 3 lanes of traffic?
this was really just an extension of the, you know, the width that was fine. Yeah, at this point.
Wait a minute, section A is the existing street section?
Yeah.
Section A is like in the street.
So
The existing street comes down next to.
it's kind of that red line right there is where section it ends.
So you're not making any improvements until basically that turnaround, that's key.
Currently, that's what's considered, yeah.
You have a lot less leverage to affect Pegasus Park Drive, maybe all just for making. Okay.
That's City Street, that's.
That's
Our property lines, the back of the curve. Yeah. So there's really not, you know, as much as we can do about part of that.
Let me interject one question, I don't want to interrupt your comments. So does Pegasus Park provide required access to that piece of property that you don't own there to the right? Is it required for access to anybody else's property other than yours?
Yeah, I mean, I know they have an entrance at that turnaround.
It's fire lane. That's why there's the bulb out there, so it's a fire lane turnaround and it also provides emergency access so that you can get through from Irving up. That's a big part of this connection between.
I'll ask a question, more detail about it.
All good. Yeah, I was reformulating some of my thoughts, but I did think that Pegasus Park Drive is project, you know, that's not. I guess where, if we do decide to stick with the Pegasus Park Drive, it's like narrowing the possible doing it here. That's great. I always just, I don't know, a couple weekends ago, I did a volunteer data collection project in the District of Texas trees. I was just like,
Right.
worried about anything that's not shaded by trees.
Oh.
It's 40 degrees hotter.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the more trees that we can get in there. Yeah. Okay, well, that's good to know. Do you have, I'm looking at the Paseo too, I love this gesture. I'm just a little concerned that it's conceptual wrapping almost good. So like where the spots are placed, seeing little precarious on the curve, and I don't know, I've always been taught never cross the street, and also just thinking more about that section to the best of your ability, and that's how I should work. Yeah, anything we can do to reduce speeds down Pegasus Park Drive, I think is gonna be important, if we really want people to cross.
Yeah.
Then what's the all of that? That's all I have.
Okay, well, I appreciate this project, I love that we're having this kind of development. I'm a little less enthusiastic about where we stand, however, I think that there are a lot of opportunities yet that need to be considered in a way this relates. Normally, as James alluded to, we would kind of jump all over a parking structure, a primary entrance corner, and these precedent it sets for the street edge along it. But we have, like in most projects, we have compromises to make. We have trade-offs to do, and there's trade-offs that I think can justify some of that. I encourage you to stay off the corner as much as reasonably possible, but take the word for it, you've got issues with that big service yard. The concern I'm having though is that what you say you want and what you're doing strike me as in conflict a little bit. If this is a modern pedestrian centric, green centric, great opportunity to engage with with already a really cool green space across Vegas Drive, Park Drive, and will be better in the future. But to me, you're diminishing all of that by making a choice to make automobile parking convenience the priority. That whole extension is based on the idea that you want people to get in their cars easier to park to the parking structure. And in doing that, you were actually drawing traffic down Vegas Park Drive through your connection to that part. That to me is pretty consistent. I would recommend that you consider the idea that you don't do Vegas Park extension at all. That land is more valuable to you as green space on the other side, that you could then move the building farther to the east. And then you can still maintain fire lane and emergency access. But we're not talking, I would say, street parking is useless there. I would say that using that as a pedestrian area is not necessary. That's basically better use on the other side, building B, a wider, better safe, or more square footage in the building. Either way would be helpful. I just don't see that it adds anything. I think his connection through diminishes the rest of the side by begging traffic, giving traffic an incentive to come through your park connection and to get to the parking. So I don't think it's that much inconvenience to make people go around the block to come into your parking structure. You can still leave maybe that connected to the parking structure and connect the loop around it and hopefully move some building services to that side. The other issue that concerns me, I'm surprised no one's mentioned this, but the thing where it hits the park, you've got a service area there. That's the last place I would put a service area in this scheme. That service area could really use again, that could be back around the corner, tucked in closer to the end of the current Pegasus Park Drive is. So I'm not going to go into detail, and I will. I got one other option. If you just hate that idea, wonder why you can't, why let these people say things like it's about your project, then the other option I would suggest is you look at it, because I don't think what we're trying to do anymore is the closed off campus thing where you got the wall to the street and all the cool stuff on the inside.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to keep it like that, and look, you don't, but if you're going to keep it like that, then you ought to extend your quad through building D. You ought to pick that first floor up. And you ought to, even if that means putting that floor on top of it at that point. So that quad extends all the way to this important drive that you have now created. And when you say that's an entrance point, then you actually started to create something that looks like that. And I think that kind of thing would even maybe allow you to put your loading dock stuff up underneath there, so that not everybody has to traverse in front of them, or they don't have to deal with them as they walk over and do the park engagements we talked about. So that's a long way.
Can you repeat the last one about building B?
All right, if you don't mind, come up. Yeah, because I don't have, we depend on Eureka's laser pointers. I didn't bring one. This could go all the way through. That building could come up for a tall first floor. And so as all this traffic came by here, this becomes a much more legitimate entrance view into the really cool site, better connection to the outside where we can go if you're going to bring people through. And then it might even give you an opportunity to come this way and hide some of this kind of thing back up under there instead of having it right here where this comes through. That's plan B.
Well, we technically were maybe a small gesture, but the idea is just an open, glassy lobby that's through view to the farm, and I think you can see that right there, the two-story
Okay.
space, but that's what's. We're thinking along the line of this, very good, yeah,
That's glass, it's not glass.
it's glass,
So you're looking at glass.
all the way through.
Okay, I'm looking at air.
Yeah.
All the way through. Bring the floor up, open that up.
Were you pointing to this loading dock? Because there's existing loading and then new loading in this corridor.
What's existing? level?
This is the existing loading
Okay,
for the tower.
No.
Yeah, that's, I wanted to make one more,
You're living hard on it.
I just, see, obviously, all of us probably mentioned about the potential of reducing the width of the premises extension. I believe it is not very difficult to convince the city that we don't need that extra wide section.
Yeah.
You are not putting new concrete, so it will be less cost, but you're just building the curbs, right, even on that existing section. If nothing else, here we are, like right where the road turns, you leave everything up to that point just the way it is, but from that point where it turns, you really choke it down, reduce all the extra concrete, create that big green space, and now you have really made that narrow. Now, second thing that all of us kind of is concerned of is that if you are trying to minimize, you're trying to give flexibility to your tenants to come from there into the garage. I get it, but you don't want anybody else coming in. But if it is left like that, then you will never stop me from cutting through, right? So if you think about this way, you have that entrance extending off that urban boulevard to your parking structure. Okay, coming in and going. You own that street, it is not a public street, so it's a blessing in that way, it's a private street. You can consider, as long as you provide a secondary entrance to the parking structure, you see where the red arrow that people are gonna go out?
Yeah.
Somewhere on that east-west connector, you give another second vehicular access. And what you can do is put access control between that east-west drive and the parking structure three entrance. You basically are at access control, so you choose to let people connect all the way back and forth. It will eliminate the cut through problem. If that problem happens, you can add access control right there, which is fire department can use, but it will stop that.
I mean,
No, not bring it from the south.
it's where the nice one looking back here.
I know, but you don't that access. You can go all day long, if you want to prevent everybody else. But I'm talking, just looking at it, right now, anybody who's going westbound in their section who wants to go to 35 goes all the way, and then they make this, right? The moment this connection to the railroad, it's a lot shorter. If you just look at the area, it's a lot shorter, right? People will start moving around. It just gives you the flexibility. I'm not saying you can do it, just leave that space that if that becomes a problem, then you have the option to do it down the road.
Yeah, interesting. It's,
And then put that concrete on the portion that you're gonna build. Why, I mean,
If I could make one point of information, this is great, this kind of aligns with what we were thinking through, trying to create a nice pedestrian space. I don't know if this was clear, but the current road is a fire truck turnaround. So one of the considered, a minor point was we were thinking we could get back more usable green space at this point
yes.
as well by connecting, because right now, and there's a 15-foot front door easement as well, so we can't do anything here building wise if we don't extend the street.
So that is why I asked the question on, the reason it is a turnaround today, because that was the end of the road.
Yes.
Right, so you have to provide a turnaround. The moment you have extended it, that is gone. You can do a minor amendment to the plan, and you can get rid of that line, and you can gain whatever you want. And I really involved when taking break, took everything down, you will pick up some square footage for the building itself. You know, so, yeah, I won't limit myself just because of that line.
okay. Thank you, Fossil. Any other comments?
Can I just sit for on that? I still, I don't know if I was really clear earlier, but I do love this idea of, and Chip, I think that's what you said, I mean, think about, if you did control this through and make this what you want it to be, you know, let's say we told us that, I do understand this property has to have access, but to make this much more prominent as your vertical access, your north-south access up to the park that really links out to the park. And what Norman's saying, so yeah, I don't know, the goal, you know, I was sitting here thinking earlier, it'd be great if that were open, you know, second floor, but, no floor area, it's literally an open air, connection through the building over to this. You know, I'm not saying you do away with this, but you get this facade out of the service, you make this more of your north south. Maybe I'm going too far, maybe I'm suggestions, but I just think that's an interesting idea. And then Norman, there's any way to inch the sparking forward so that your trees, you know, you bring that connection down, it makes a very strong access. You know, I don't know if there's flexibility in that mile that easy sliding that over or having more room there.
Well, it gives you.
I think it's plus. I think it's just some tweaks and you're got really strong.
I think on that garage, for instance, both the steps back, I think if you were to come straight up, keep what you keep, in other words, the step back, eliminate those, fill those with parking, take that parking off of the overall footprint, and make the footprint of the parking garage smaller. That would be more valuable to the people on the ground using the facility
Right.
than the step backs of the parking project.
This was my only, I didn't say that because I figured it was restricted by dimensions. But if you're gonna monkey around with the footprint of the parking garage, then I would eliminate one whole row, because you have one row that is single, right? So it's very expensive. That very far row is single, you pay, you still have to drive by, so it is very inefficient. So if you're gonna monkey around with that, then I might as well just kill that whole row, go vertical one level if you have to, but it would be a lot more efficient. Right now, this is not the most efficient. And it also pushes it further down north, give a little bit more space.
It's the trade-offs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need it or whatever, but yes.
Does your parking structure meet the minimum or does it exceed it?
Minimum of.
Parking required, or is it just?
I mean, I think we're actually under, yeah, cause like the current city codes on lab space is actually like above what you have to park in office building, but lab building requires less parking than a little bit.
And this is meant to serve building D and E buildings?
So we're removing a significant amount of parking where Pegasus Tower service lot is, and then parking structure 3 is over an entirely service park lot. So it's got to replace what we take away, plus that for, the $250 foot building.
Okay. Well, with that, we're gonna turn it off the comments here. And man, I'll be with you, buddy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming forward with this and understand that our, get what you pay for with us and these are, and Eureka likes to point out, these are professionals volunteering their expertise in the project, and we only wish you success in this endeavor. But we have kind of a lot of comments and back and forth and flow, and you are welcome to take some time to refine some of these after you have scattered them for us.
I can give I can do that. I'll give the general overview. It looks like we've got 11, and feel free to interject if we need to make revisions. Consider the service area between building D and the garage. Is it possible to make that a right in and right out? We had quite a few comments on Pegasus Drive extension. Looking at the curb extension radius past the plot line, consider eliminating select on-street parking and choke down at Pegasus Park extension at the turn. Number 3, looking into the service yard on the north side of building D. It's very small. Make sure that the design for all kinds of vehicles will be able to maneuver that space. Number 4, is the extension of Pegasus Drive necessary? As we mentioned, there's quite a few different potentials to make that more pedestrian friendly by both that north south connection to the park and that east and west consideration through building B. Number 5, I kind of said that, but much more direct, intentional connections to the future park. That seems pretty crucial. Number 6 would be good to see an option where Pegasus Drive is a paseo, permeable paving, controlled, and put the pedestrian. Consider ways to make the pedestrian more of the forefront as far as a user over the vehicle. Number 7, bring idea of the tech pods to both DART bus stops, and consider working with them and collaborating on that. Number 8, on the parking structure, considering how Irving Boulevard will evolve in the future, which there was some programmatic elements on the ground level or the second level to help increase the pedestrian experience now and in the future. More inviting and accessible and friendly. Number 9, open up the paseo to feel more friendly and connected to the quad. 10, consider not doing, I sort of said this already, but reconsider, study and reconsider Pegasus Park Drive, pedestrian space and circulation of the buildings and pedestrian circulation. Consider reducing. Yeah, I sort of said that again. A lot of it's related to the.
Yeah, we went back and forth on the drive.
But
Okay, but you'll clear that up and circulate it amongst the panel so that we can help make sure we've got all the points covered and get that done before we send it to them. Okay. Any further comments from the panel at this point?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that very first comment, what I meant is that Service Lab is writing right out to make it only exits, people are not only in.
Got it.
Fire department looking with the service looking with it, but it's best, probably, so that they don't be the, get people going and then,
Just clarify the comment about DART and technology pods. Yeah, could you clarify what that? Yeah, my comment is more around the stop, so that edge of Irving, you've got 2 bus stops there. I guess the thought is, opposed to just being a sign or a bench, which is what we see. A lot of them you just say sign, not even a bench. I know that they've been giving a lot of thought to what the future of their bus stops will be. So there may be a partnership opportunity for perhaps they help fund that. I don't know. I just think having a conversation with them, tell them if you're thinking about the technology project, I thought was a great idea, and bring some of that out into whatever that transit or bus stop is. I think it's worth a conversation, but worst thing to say, I think that really starts to also change the whole environment of that street edge and encourage people to take the bus.
Okay. I guess that's what we got for today. Thank you all for coming. Any last comments from presenters before we adjourn?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you all for the comments and for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Super excited about the project so far. Thank you.
Beth and Lyle.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see you again. Yeah.
Previous 2 months ago meeting.
Oh, I didn't get them all?
Yeah, we just need to approve the minutes from the June meeting.
Okay.
Speaking of, we have 4.
Okay. In the So we still need to approve the meeting from June. So I'm sure y'all have gone through those very carefully. And I would be I would love a motion to accept. Jim? Any second? Is that a second there?
Second.
That looks like a second to me. Could be one. We have a motion, a second, any comments?
Not being
All right, all in favor, say aye. Just both names aye. Both passed, is that good?
It's perfect.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sure.
So it's like, you know,
They've been fast,
Why was mother